Unicorns gather! Hi everyone, this is Yuna. Welcome back to another podcast episode of my Dear Diary Faith Journey with Myasthenia Gravis. Today I'll be sharing this magazine titled Managing Myasthenia Gravis, published by Health. And this is from Dr. Sohaib Imtiaz. He is a board-certified lifestyle physician, and he's also a chief medical officer at Health. So we'll be sharing a little bit of this summer 2026 edition from Health Reports. And it specifically talks about how to cope with this invisible illness, safe ways to exercise, and meals that are made for myasthenia gravis patients. Yeah, so we'll be looking into our first chapter, 5 things to know about myasthenia gravis. So there's 5 things to know about myasthenia gravis. The first one is the hallmark symptom is muscle weakness. Myasthenia gravis, or MG, is a chronic illness that leads to muscle weakness and fatigue. The affected muscles and the degree of weakness vary from person to person. Symptoms may come and go, but they typically worsen throughout the day and with activity. There are 2 types of MG, ocular and generalized. Ocular myasthenia gravis only affects the eyes and causes symptoms like droopy eyelids and blurry or double vision. More than half of people with MG experience eye symptom first. For about 50 to 80% of these patients, symptoms will progress and lead to generalized MG within 2 years. With generalized myasthenia gravis, symptoms can affect different areas of the body caused by weakness in the muscles of the eyes, face, jaw, throat, and neck, as well as arms or legs. Respiratory or breathing muscles may also be involved with generalized MG. A small percentage of people living with myasthenia gravis may experience a sudden and severe weakness of respiratory muscles that makes it difficult to breathe. This is known as a myasthenic crisis, and it is the most severe complication of generalized MG. It can be triggered by infections, extreme stress, or surgery. A myasthenic crisis is considered a medical emergency and requires being placed on a breathing machine and monitoring in a hospital. So that is a basic introduction into what myasthenia gravis is. And the second thing to know about MG is an autoimmune disorder. So what does that mean? When a person has an autoimmune disease, their immune system attacks healthy cells, tissues, or organs by mistake. In myasthenia gravis, the immune system makes antibodies that block or destroy receptors for acetylcholine, a chemical that nerve cells use to communicate with the muscles. As a result, signaling between the nerves and muscle doesn't work as well, leading to muscle weakness and fatigueness. So some people with MG have antibodies to muscle-specific kinases, MuSK, which also plays a role in the connection between the nerves and the muscles. The exact cause of myasthenia gravis needs to be better understood. However, about 70% of people with MG have an enlarged thymus gland. Thymus gland is a small organ in the upper chest that is a part of the immune system. Researchers suspect the thymus gland may send incorrect instructions to developing immune cells, which causes the immune system to malfunction and produce antibodies that affects the communication between the nerves and the muscles. So that is what you need to know about this autoimmune disorder. The third chapter is that diagnosis may be delayed. Myasthenia gravis can be hard to diagnose because its symptoms are similar to other health conditions. For example, symptoms of ocular myasthenia gravis may be mistaken for a stroke in the brain, stem, or nerves that control eye movements. General muscle weakness is a common symptom in many disorders. If you're concerned about an autoimmune diagnosis, such as MG. Take steps to advocate for your care and keeping a record of your symptoms and seeing a specialist who has experience with your major symptoms. Myasthenia gravis is usually diagnosed by a neurologist, a doctor who specializes in the brain, spinal cord, and nerves. In addition to taking your medical history, your provider may also order the following tests to make a diagnosis. Okay, and in this book, it shows 6 tests on this book. And it says that for MG, there's a lot of other diseases that are similar to the symptoms of MG. I was fortunate because about a month or two after my double vision started kicking in, my eye doctor actually was the one that helped me figure out it could be a possibility of MG. And MG, it is a rare form of autoimmune disease, so it's harder to be diagnosed. I heard people that did not get diagnosed after like a year or two, and I cannot imagine how that could be, because when you have MG and you're not knowing the diagnosis, knowing the real cause, you can't really help, the doctors can't really help you with your symptoms. So I imagine that would be really bad. But there is 6 tests in finding if your symptoms are related to myasthenia gravis. There are 6 of them in this book. The first one is a neurological exam. An exam to check your reflexes, muscle strength and tone, coordination, balance, sense of touch, and sight. So the neurological exam is done, for me, it's every time I go back to see my neuro, I'll do this reflex, muscle, balance, walking, speaking, eye movement, those kind of tests would be done with your neuro. And that is for the neurologist to see how your symptoms are and if you're able to move, right? The second test is ice pack test. Okay, this one, yeah, I definitely know what this is. So an ice pack is placed on a droopy eyelid. If drooping improves, it may mean that you have MG. So I did the ice pack test the day that my eye doctor suspected that it was MG. Okay, so my eye doctor is called Dr. Chani, and she saw me and I was having drooping eyelids, double vision. I couldn't speak without holding my chin up, couldn't move much, and there was just a lot of weakness throughout my body. And she took an ice pack to put it on my eyes. My mom was explaining to the doctors that I looked different before I have MG, like the symptoms are, because I mean, I'm Asian, so you might think I just have small eyes, but my ptosis, which is the medical term for droopy eyelids, is really bad. It's like I couldn't open it and close it. Like it was just at this really awkward. Yeah, it was bad, okay? And my mom was showing my eye doctor, Dr. Richani, the picture of how I looked before the symptoms, and she's like, this reminds me of MG. And then she brought an ice pack to put on my eyes, and then after she put it on for a little bit, took it off, my eyes were, back to its good shape. I don't really know why that happens. That might be a question I want to look into, like research. But an ice pack test is a good, pretty easy way to tell if that's suspect MG. But there's definitely more diagnosis has to be done. You can't just do an ice pack test and yeah, that's MG. But the possibility of it being MG is higher if your eyes are going back to its normal shape, right? Okay, the third test is the antibody test. This is a blood test that looks for acetylcholine receptor antibodies and anti-MuSK antibodies. Some people with myasthenia gravis have neither of these antibodies. Okay, so this is something I did not know about. It's interesting that some people with MG doesn't have these specific antibodies. I remember when I talked to my Taiwanese neurologist, he told me that I could have other antibodies as well. That's like muscle specific, because at that time my double vision wouldn't go away, but my MuSK and the MG acetylcholine receptor antibodies is basically zero, but there still is double vision and weaknesses. So this is something new that I learned, like you could have other antibodies. Okay, so the fourth test is electromyography, EMG. And this is a nerve conduction study. These tests measure nerve and muscle function. So I can talk a lot about this because I remember it really much. So EMG, what happened is it's like they put needles into specific places like your arms, your face, and they'll tell you to flex your muscles. The nerve communication kind of like, it communicates and it just goes down, and that's why you have the weakness. So it's an interesting one. I don't like this EMG test though. It hurts because they're like needles, and like it's needles actually putting into your skin, right? So into your muscles. So it's like it's a little painful. It's not like really horrible. It's just a little discomfort, but yeah. Okay, so the fifth one is imaging test. This is a computerized tomography or CT scan or magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. Okay, this is the first time I know what the full name of the abbreviation tests are. So CT stands for computerized tomography, and MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. So these two imaging tests are other forms of diagnosis tests to check if you have thymus gland problems. So I did took both of the tests because, okay, the first thing is that they suspect there was like a tumor in my brain, right? Right. So that's like the first thing I did, and praise God I don't have any tumor in my brain. And they also checked with my thymus. My thymus was there wasn't like abnormal things going on with my thymus. It's there, but there's nothing abnormal about it. I know for a lot of MG patients, they have enlarged thymus glands, or they even have a malignant tumor that's growing on their thymus, right? So these tests are important to help your neuro to figure out if there's something going on with your thymus. The last test is called a lung function test. This test is to measure your breathing and how well your lung is working. Your lungs are working, yeah. 2 lungs. Okay, I did this test too. When I got diagnosed, literally I was sent to the ER right after I was sure that this is MG. And I was put on a 5-day steroid infusion. During those days, because my muscle weakness was severe, so they were they were checking my symptoms and how my arms, my muscles are doing, my breathing as well, because that's like the most important one. You need to breathe. So it's just kind of like a machine that your doctor will tell you to blow air into the machine, and like with all your might. And yeah, I never really had terrible breathing problems that needed medical attention, but this is something to look out to if you are starting to have breathing problems. Go to the ER if you have breathing problems. Okay, so these are the 6 tests, and I would say I did all 6 of them. So, yep, certified MG patient here, right here. So a couple more of stuff. On the top it says, Myasthenia gravis symptoms tend to reach peak severity within 1 to 3 years after a diagnosis. The range, severity, and progress of symptoms can differ widely from person to person. Okay, this one I did not know, but I know now. It's definitely, I think when you just started this when your first symptoms start to kick in, your flare-ups and all the symptoms are kind of off and on and off, especially like this magazine says, within 1 to 3 years, it's harder to get your symptoms back into remission. But again, symptoms can vary from person to person. Okay, so the fourth chapter that I want to share is there are effective treatments. There is no cure for myasthenia gravis, but it is a treatable condition. The goal is to reduce symptoms. Your healthcare provider will provide a treatment plan based on the severity of your symptoms, which muscles are affected, and your medical history. A combination of the following therapies may be used as a part of your care, and your provider will monitor your response and adjust the plan as needed. Okay, so the first treatment is cholinesterase inhibitors. This is the initial treatment for myasthenia gravis, typically starts with cholinesterase inhibitors. This medication prevents the breakdown of acetylcholine, decreasing symptoms of muscle weakness. The second one is immunosuppressants. If your symptoms are still active after taking cholinesterase inhibitors, your provider may prescribe immunosuppressant treatments. Immunosuppressive medications such as corticosteroids may reduce immune system activity. They require careful monitoring by your provider as they may cause potentially serious side effects. Third one is targeted therapies. Newer FDA-approved treatments include targeted therapies such as complement inhibitors and neonatal Fc receptor blockers. These target immune system responses that are involved in myasthenia gravis. Fourth one is IVIG or plasmapheresis. Short-term therapies such as intravenous immunoglobulins, IVIG, and plasma exchange may be used if your symptoms suddenly get worse to treat a myasthenic crisis or before surgery. IVIG provides the body with beneficial donor antibodies, and plasma exchange removes harmful antibodies from the blood. Fifth is surgery. Some people with myasthenia gravis develop a tumor in the thymus, which is called a thymoma. It is typically non-cancerous. In this case, the thymus gland is usually removed in surgery called thymectomy. Even if you don't have thymoma, removing your thymus may improve your myasthenia gravis symptoms. It's important to discuss the decision with a specialist who has experience treating MG. Okay, so for these treatments, I did all of them. So I think I have a lot of experience with dealing with different kinds of MG treatments. If you would like to learn more about what I did, you can check out this video, which I talk about the benefits, how I felt, the side effects, costs, and all that in this video. And I think for what the first one, cholinesterase inhibitors, I remember it's called pyridostigmine, I think, the medicine that I got. And basically it's for more, generalized myasthenia gravis. For ocular myasthenia gravis with double vision, I think I needed a steroid in order to help me, because the cholinesterase inhibitors, you have to take it every 4 hours because, you need it more often. But the immunosuppressants are the ones that actually represses your immune system. So usually for MG patients that I know of, you take both. You take your prednisone, which is your steroid, and you may need a cholinesterase as needed, a few hours. When you're awake, when you're asleep, you don't really need to move around. So yeah. And then the targeted therapies, they are, the new treatments, Vyvgart, Rystiggo, Ultomiris, all that good stuff that I did in my past videos. So if you want to check that out. I also explained in the video IVIG and plasma exchange. Yeah, they target more for emergency situations, like you have more severe side of MG. And surgery, I also did the surgery back in 2021, so a few months after my diagnosis. And I didn't have a tumor or anything like that. It's just remove it since it might help. So, I'll do everything I can. Okay, last one I want to share is the last chapter is you can live a full life with MG. Most people with myasthenia gravis can function well with proper treatment. In the past, myasthenia crises were a major cause of death. With improved treatment and care, the mortality rate for myasthenia crisis has been reduced to 4.5%. Decades ago, it was over 50%. Research has also led to fewer delayed and more accurate diagnoses. Although muscle weakness and fatigue may be disruptive, many people living with MG are able to adapt. Working with your healthcare provider, adjusting your daily routines, and following your treatment plan can help manage symptoms so you can enjoy a good quality of life. Okay, so, end it on a positive note is that even though there's no cure, at least there's a lot of treatments that are here now that can help you reduce your symptoms and, help you better manage. I think there's obviously still more research that could be done, and we can help support these people that are struggling more because, again, even though there are a lot of treatments out there, everyone experiences these treatment effects differently, right? So there's definitely more that we need to advocate for this group. So if you guys would like to support me, please support me by subscribing this channel. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Before you leave, I want to share really good news for you guys. Is that I have invited my neurologist, Dr. Nguyen. She is a neurologist at UT Health Physician, and she has years of experience with MG. I was really happy and grateful that she is my neuro. She's been helping with me with MG since the start of my MG journey, which is when I was 17 in high school, and now I'm like a graduate college student. So I'm really excited to bring her into this podcast and talk about the questions you have with MG. And so if you have any questions or concerns, you want to share stories, please leave a comment, let me know. And if you want to join my podcast, go to this link. I'll see you guys in my next episode.